Hi, this is Jane Merle with Keeton and Company Real Estate in Richmond, Virginia. Today, I am going to be talking with Lisa Hollier, who is the owner of Choice Connections Virginia. I met Lisa several years ago when I was completing my coursework for the Seniors Real Estate Specialist certification and have worked with her recently on a client out in the Louisa County area that needed some of her services. So Lisa, I really appreciate you taking time to meet with me today, and we would love to hear a little bit about your business and how you got started.
Great, thank you, Jane. I appreciate it. So Choice Connections, I started it here locally in 2009. So I am going on 12 years in serving families. And it's just been a wonderful experience for me to help those seeking care to go through the process in a little bit of a less stressful way, and for them to feel like they have a friend in the business helping them go through this process.
Well, I was really surprised about all the different services that you offer, which is great. What are some of those services? Do you mind elaborating a little bit on that?
Sure. So Choice Connections, really, we are a senior care consulting company. I'm a certified senior advisor. And as I said, I've been helping families for about 12 years. Most often when someone calls us, they know they need help with personal care for a senior, but either they don't know where to start or they heard about our services through a friend. Mm-hmm. The way I like to think or describe our services is for those who know they're looking to do a move into a senior community, we're kind of like a realtor. There's no MLS listing for this business, but what we do is we start with a consultation, and I ask questions and really ask a lot of detailed questions to understand a senior's unique situation. We want to understand about their health needs, their diagnoses. We want to understand their financial resources as well as preferences that would be important to them. Preferences could be anything from location in town to bringing their dog to different amenities. But we use that information to identify the best communities that would be a fit for a client. And then we talk with them about that and why it would be a fit. We'll set up visits, we'll go on visits, and we'll really hold our clients' hands as they're exploring these different options. At the end, it's their decision. We're just trying to be an objective resource to help them. For some people, though, they're not looking to do a move to a community. They just want help figuring out what their options are. And that's where we can also be a resource, whether they're looking for care in the short term, soon, or whether they're planning ahead in the future. We're still familiar with the different care options and can really help them understand what those options are. Okay. Our typical client really is an adult child or the spouse of the person who's needing care.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, why do some families choose to move their loved one to a community versus letting them stay at home and age in place?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of times when you first talk with someone, they say, oh, I want to stay at home until I die. But what really happens when you get in and you start to talk through the situation, for some people, it's a lifestyle change. They could still be independent. Maybe they're looking to move to a retirement community, not for care, just for the socialization of it and, the getting rid of the stresses of having a house, that type of thing. For others, it could be the house itself is no longer safe. Maybe the stairs or things like that make it a challenge. I've had some say that because of the physical layout of their home, it's become more where they feel isolated and they can't leave because leaving is too difficult. Mm-hmm. So isolation, lack of socialization is another reason, especially during COVID. That's been a big issue. And I'd say the last is for those who need care, if they need access to care 24/7, meaning they can't schedule when they need help. Right. The cost of care in the home is just incredibly expensive and most people just can't afford it. And so moving to a senior community is more affordable. Okay. So those are really the key reasons that someone would move. I will say this, for many, they've not been in a senior community, and their image of it is a nursing home. And they think of older adults who aren't really engaged in life, sitting in a wheelchair outside of the nurse's station. And that is just not at all what the communities are like that I work with.
And I'm
So
seeing
it's been a pleasant surprise for families.
Right. I'm seeing that too with some of the older crowd that I've talked to, and they're just like, oh, we're not ready yet. And I know that's part of it, is they think they're just going to sit there and not be able to engage.
Right.
Yep.
It is kind of funny because when I'm visiting with families, a lot of times I'm with the adult children, and they'll look at the marketing person giving the tour and say, what's your minimum age? I want to move in here. This is beautiful.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That is good though, compared to how it used to be, 20 years ago. So now
there's a lot more choices.
Right. Choice connections.
Yep,
Where do
exactly.
you guys serve geographically in Virginia?
So I am based here in Richmond, and as I said, I have been working in this area since 2009. So think greater Richmond area, all the surrounding counties. I expanded several years ago, and I've got two fantastic people on our team, and we are able to provide services from Richmond east within the state. So whether it's this side of the tunnel or the Virginia Beach south side,
Right.
we can help families.
Wow, that's great. That is great. So tell me a little bit, we talked about COVID just a minute ago, but how has COVID affected the families that you've been dealing with as far as the moving process and that kind of thing?
So let me answer it from a few different dimensions. So first, in my process, my first step really is to meet with families to get to know them and their loved ones. Where I used to do that in person, with COVID, I don't. So now I'm doing conversations either by phone or by Zoom to get to know the senior and, their unique situation. So that's one shift. From a touring perspective, as you can imagine, you want to visit the place where you may be moving a loved one. For a while with COVID, those tours were on hold, and what they were doing was Zoom tours. So for families who really had to make a decision, maybe their loved one was in rehab and it just wasn't safe for them to go back home, they had to make a decision really almost sight unseen just by doing a Zoom tour.
Gotcha.
So the process has been different. At this point, more and more communities have opened up. The vaccine, that is one huge benefit for seniors living in a community, is they've gotten the vaccines. But the tours are now opening back up so we can actually walk through the building and see it, which is really very good. So early on, when COVID first hit last year, I would say families who were on the fence with moving a loved one chose to wait. And, initially they were worried their loved one was going to get COVID.
Right.
As the months passed and COVID became a little bit more normal for us, what I was hearing was, I won't be able to visit the way I could previously, and I may try to hold off as long as I can moving them to a senior community. For some, though, the move still happened because there was no good alternative. As I said, if you need care all the time, you can either have them live with you or you can hire someone, and it's just incredibly expensive. And with people working from home, that's been a challenge to try to have a senior in their home as well. So now, again, we're seeing more socialization between the residents and the communities. So even if families can't visit in quite the same way, they at least know that their seniors, their loved ones, are having meals with others, are engaging in activities, and they are getting the social benefits in addition to the care benefits of living in a community.
Right.
But visits right now are still restricted. So typically you see the window visits, or a community may have a room designated for visits, but in most, the family is not allowed to go into the apartment of the senior.
Well, and they have,
keeping everyone safe is the highest priority.
and they
but
probably
figuring
have
out
a
a
way
way.
to watch, like through a little Zoom or tablet or something where they can actually FaceTime or something.
more and more communities have been doing that. And again, it's a great way to be able to see them. In my own personal case, my mom was in a community, and so we had gotten her a little tablet, and it was a very easy to use one, so she could call me, I could call her, and it was that video chatting, which it's not a hug, but it's still a way to lay eyes on each other.
Right.
And again, things are getting better and better. And now that the senior communities, the residents have been vaccinated, the staff has been vaccinated, we're anticipating seeing changes to all the rules about how to keep folks safe.
Right. We're hoping by the spring, things will open up a little bit more. So, Well, tell me, what's the best way for folks to reach you if they need your services?
Sure. Again, we're a very personalized business, so we want to talk to people, but we do understand that people have pretty busy schedules. So they can either pick up the phone and call us. The office number is 804-364-0123. They can send me an email. The name of our company is Choice Connections of Virginia. You could look that up, find our webpage, and reach me that way. But my email is lhollier, HOLLIER, @choiceconnectionsva.com.
Okay, great. And we'll post that as well on the interview so folks can see it.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you can think of that you'd like to share that might be helpful to that population?
No, I guess the only thing I would say is this. Making the decision to move a loved one is really very difficult. And it's overwhelming. And it's just hard to think about your loved one not being able to remain at home any longer. And it's just very hard for people. When I work with families, I'm not pushing them. I'm listening. I'm listening to the concerns. I'm listening to really understand what would make that older adult happy. So I can help them choose a community that's going to be a good fit if moving to a community is the right answer. Right. If it's not, and I can help them come up with some alternative solutions, I'm more than happy to do that. And I love really being able to help. And I think I used this phrase earlier. It's like having a friend in the business. I do get to know my clients well. And most of my business honestly comes from referrals from other clients. And I think that's just a statement of how helpful they find it to have someone guiding them through this process rather than them having to do it on their own. The only other piece of our service that I didn't mention, if a senior moves into a community, we stay in touch with that family afterwards. So we want to be there as a resource. We want to be advocates for them. We want them to feel like no matter what is going on with their loved one, if we can help, we will. If it's connecting them to a different resource who provides some kind of senior service, we can do that. But selfishly, it also gives us a window into each of the communities. So we know whether it's a community we should continue referring to or maybe not because they're undergoing some problems. So by working with us, I think families can feel confident that they are getting really good objective guidance and just making the process itself a little bit easier.
Well, I'm very glad that you're here in Richmond because I've talked to you about several different clients that had specific needs. So it's really a great service. And I really appreciate you taking time today to share with us all of the services that you provide.
Great. And Jane, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about my services so we can work together to help the seniors in our market.
That's great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.